listening to Her Profit Era, the podcast for founders who want a business that actually works. A business that's profitable, predictable, and pays them well. I'm Cindy Kumar, a CPA, a fractional CFO from Abbotsford, BC, Canada. I'm the person founders call when they're tired of high revenue months with no money left over. I started this podcast because too many founders were chasing sales while their margins, cash flow, and bank accounts told a completely different story. I believe profit and money in the bank is the standard, not a bonus, and that every founder deserves clarity around their numbers. Each week, you'll get real financial strategy you can actually use and honest conversations with founders and industry experts about what it really takes to build a business that lasts. I am so excited for this incredible guest. I'm speaking to Molly Middleton today. She's the executive producer of Canada's longest running reality show, Dragon's Den. For 2 decades, she's proudly grown the show as a premier platform that showcases the best in Canadian innovation. When it comes to Canadian entrepreneurship, Molly's seen it all. So come with me, let's go see all the behind the scenes of what goes into Dragon's Den. Hi, Molly. Thank you so much for joining me on our Profit Era today.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like it's such like an exciting year for you, like Dragon's Den celebrating 20 years. You have like the full circle episodes coming out. You're going through auditions right now. Like how are you taking like everything in?
It is an exciting time. The show it's such a calendar cycle. Like we recorded all of the pitches that you're seeing on TV now. We recorded those in May of
Oh, wow.
2025. So, we look at everything for so long, and I joke with any kinds of dragons that I've been staring at your faces for so long, but it's so nice when things actually come out on TV for the entrepreneurs and the dragons to see themselves and remember, because it's always different than how you thought it was when you're in there. So it's a great time, and when we're still on air while we're doing auditions, that sort of makes it a little more complicated, but it's sort of
Yeah,
great timing as well because the excitement's still out there.
that's so cool. And like I just recently learned like you grew up in Abbotsford.
I did, born and raised Abbotsford, BC girl. Whoop whoop.
Did you always know you wanted to get into like production?
Absolutely not. Growing up, oh man, I probably wanted to be an actress, and then I wanted to be a marine biologist and live in Hawaii, and all the different things you think you're going to be. I definitely didn't ever foresee myself working in TV, but now I can't imagine that I would have ever done anything else.
That's so cool. Yeah, I was such a small world because I was like trying to tell you about Abbotsford and you're like, I already know.
Yeah, I'm from there. Yeah, I grew up in Abbotsford, and then I ended up coming out to Ontario for university. So I went to Western, and I would go home every summer. I was a customs officer at the Vancouver airport as
Wow.
my summer job. And you were telling me that you were going to ask sort of my path, and I was thinking, I don't know when I thought that this was going to happen, but I did do an English lit degree at Western, and I was always a writer. I think I could have like classified myself as a writer most of my life, even as a kid. And then it was when I was at Western, they had a daily student newspaper, and I volunteered there and ended up, by the time I finished, I was spending far more time in the newspaper than I was in class.
Wow.
And, everyone goes on to different things. Some of the people who I worked at the paper with went straight to the National Post, the Globe and Mail, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life yet. So I went to journalism school at TMU, and that's when I sort of, again, I would have said, oh, I'll be a newspaper writer or a magazine writer. And that was when, the fire was lit, that I was like, oh, it's storytelling. I guess storytelling is sort of part of who I am. And then to find out that you could do visual storytelling through TV or audio storytelling through radio. And that's where I got the radio and TV bug there, and then I started working at CBC shortly thereafter. So, and then things evolve, but
Right.
yeah, I never would have thought growing up in Abbotsford, who'd have thunk I would have lived in Toronto? I don't even think I knew what
Yeah.
Toronto was when I was a kid. So there you go.
And it just shows that like it doesn't matter where you're from, whether it's a small town that nobody's heard of, or like the opportunities are limitless.
Just like Dragon's Den,
Yes.
it doesn't matter where you're from, where you came from, you can end up finding your passion anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. And what is it like being like behind the scenes, working directly with the dragons and seeing all the pitches come in?
Well, they're not exactly our office mates. We only really have them. We film everything in 10 days. So
Wow.
it's quick. I mean, every year it's a little bit different depending on the number of episodes we have, but we film for 10 days and we pack all those businesses in. So for 10 days, I kind of get to be like the boss of the dragons, which is, I think, the fun part in that these are amazing people at the top of their game. They're titans of industry and they don't have to listen to other people very often,
So
so when I'm
true.
herding them from the dressing room to the set or telling them what to do next, I think that's sort of a fun part of it. And I don't do business with them, right? My job
Right.
is to make people and businesses and dragons look great on TV. So I think they treat us a bit differently than if I was, their lawyer or a business partner. So, we get to know their families, we get to know them personally, but it's a short time, and then we keep in touch over the year. But working with the dragons is actually a tiny window, and then I stare at their faces for the rest of the year. So.
And I just recently learned when I was in Calgary at the event that the dragons have to actually audition for the position as well.
Absolutely. I mean, um, you know, the show's been on for 20 years. I've worked on it since season two. And back in the day, it may have been, they still auditioned even for season one. Those auditions tapes live somewhere. But you gotta to put anyone on TV, just like auditioning for the show, you need to make sure they're going to be dynamic on television. You need to make sure they can talk, they don't twitch.
Right.
There's certain things that you need to know, but we do audition every couple of years. We do an audition and see who's out there, what fresh faces might be good for the panel, and sometimes we change things, sometimes we don't. So, but yeah, we put them through the gears, and to do a dragon audition, it's actually really fun. We put together a panel of potential dragons and we put people in front of them, real pictures from the show or people who are auditioning for the show. They get to be part of the dragons audition. So, and we actually, like, you'd think like, oh, are they really going to spend the day and come in and do this? But most entrepreneurs who are passionate about getting investors and pitching their business, they'll do it anytime, anywhere. So the opportunity to be in front of 4 or 5 potential investors, most people will jump at the chance.
That's so interesting.
It's pretty fun.
From like auditions and pitching, you notice a lot of like more product-based businesses. Is it just easier to display, or that's just the way it kind of comes in?
I think it is a little bit of both, but naturally, like organically, the people who audition for the show, it is often a lot of product-based businesses. Like we say, we're the most subscribed in food and drink, and maybe it's the barrier to entry is less. People who want to pursue making a packaged food or packaged consumer good, it's more likely that they'll get to do it. But we
Right.
definitely, I think that might be also like a trick of the mind that that's what you remember from the show. But we get a
Yeah.
lot of, tech pitches, app pitches, services, all kinds of things. And we have to be careful to make sure that we represent the gamut of things. But if you, when asking if it's easier, I mean, it's technically a little bit easier if you have something to try and taste versus an ethereal thing that you can't touch, taste, or feel. But in terms of
Right.
producing it, it's kind of easier. But you often have to be more creative to display a social media app. Let's create the scene, or sometimes you have to dream bigger than a PowerPoint presentation to make the TV
Right.
part of it really interesting. And that's the thing. It is a TV show about business and entrepreneurship. So as producers, we have to think TV first. Is there, what's behind the product itself? And that sort of makes the good TV of it all.
That totally makes sense. And from like a producer perspective, when people audition, what do you look for?
Oh, wow. I mean, there's no like set criteria. I think people hope that there's a checklist and that they're going to score high in
Yeah.
a certain thing like a job interview. But really it's passion and person and personality and what's the story? Like, and you have to put yourself in the viewer's shoes. Why does anyone care? You have to care to not change the channel. You have to
Right.
be invested in what's in front of you. So, you know, anybody in a pitch, it's that first 60 to 90 seconds that matters. If you lose their interest, then it's gone. So it really depends. A person who applies for the show does not have to be a perfectly polished presentation. We will help you with that, but you still want the passion behind it, the story behind it, their why, what drives them, where are they from, what are they doing, and why. Again, like you got to know your point of differentiation. So, I joke all the time it's about a granola, for example. I can't tell you how many
Yeah.
granolas I've seen over the years, but what makes yours different? Why did you come up with it? And that there's more to why we choose them than just the product or the business themselves. So that's what we're looking for is the passion and the person.
Do you guys look at the number side as well going through the auditions, or is that more of like
Oh,
on stage in front of the
100%.
dragon?
But we joke, we're not accountants and we're
Yeah.
not business people. We're TV producers. Um, so you got to know your numbers. That's just sort of the bare minimum. But we do look
Yeah.
at numbers like, is there any traction? Like, at this stage of the game, the competition is high enough that it's really tough. I like, admittedly, it's very tough if you're pre-revenue. It's
Yeah.
very tough if your sales are super modest because not just a capitalist investor wants to know how they're going to get their money back, but also in growing your business, you learn so much. So if you've only had success so far, you're in year one and we made $100,000 in profit, like that's amazing. But has
Right.
any hurdle come yet? Have you lost any money yet? Have you had the problems that arise for every business? And if you haven't, that's going to come. So sometimes, I joke that the dragons like to know you've begged, borrowed, and stolen to get as far as you can before you're seeking an investor. So if you're just like, oh, I had this idea, my friends and family like it, the dragons are going to like it too. It's a lot
Yeah.
harder to get on if your numbers are so tiny. If you're a farmer's market business only, that's great. You're starting out, but you need that traction and the experience trying to get the traction that's going to teach you a lot about your business before you come to the den.
Do you find it easy to spot when someone's coming in genuinely for a deal versus like exposure?
Yes and no. I mean, we know it happens. I think it would be lying if,
Yeah.
it would be false if people said, oh, I don't want the exposure. Everyone wants the exposure. That's
Right.
part of the beauty of the platform is there's very few platforms out there right now that celebrate and showcase entrepreneurship and small business the way that we do. So we get it. You need the exposure. You want the exposure. But
Yeah.
the difference between needing and wanting a deal for the right reasons is usually quite apparent. And I think though that like the process does weed out that stuff. Like it's no joke between auditioning and getting and coming to the show. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And I think people's true colors show in that time and there has to be more depth to the conversation. So if you're just a company that's coming on for exposure,
Yeah.
you probably don't have those layers of elements that's going to get you the investment. So, it's a fine line and I would say yes, we can tell, but not always. And it's that duality of like we want to showcase the people who deserve and need the exposure as well. And are the dragons going to invest in them? Hopefully, but we don't know. And sometimes it doesn't matter, right? Like they might not get an investment, but it still might be a great thing for their business to be on the show, to learn from the feedback and so on.
That's an interesting point. When you get like how many applicants do you get like every year? How many auditions do you have? And then how many do you say yes to?
Well, it's a range. I would say thousands like apply. By the time we film the show in May, we usually have at least 1,000 to
Oh,
1,500
wow.
businesses who've applied. And I mean, there's a huge range there. Lots of people apply this year who have applied last year. Some
Yeah.
people are back and they want another chance, so the numbers aren't perfect, but and in the old days we had maybe less applicants when the show wasn't as sort of well known or widespread. And we do have to do a little bit of work on our end too to make sure, like, we're constantly trying to do outreach to the chambers of commerces, to incubators, accelerators, to make sure people remember we are a place to come.
Right.
Because sometimes people are like, oh, but I already have sales. It's like, well, yeah, that's why we hope you also need investment. Or people think, oh, I'm too big, but how do you take your business from a $10 million company to a $100 million
So
company?
true.
Like, sometimes people just need a reminder that the conversations on Dragon's Den have evolved. There's so many different reasons to come on the show, so many different businesses to showcase. So we do a lot of outreach to make sure people are applying, and naturally people apply. We have the ads in show. People are applying all year round, but we only do the auditions starting now. So.
Wow. And this season, like we've seen the Dragons talk about, like your business has to be investable. Like, how do we get our money back? And I feel like it wasn't really talked about like in previous seasons. You always saw it from the entrepreneur's perspective.
Well, I mean, I think Michelle Romano did a great job this year.
Yeah.
I can't remember what piece it was where she talks about investor math, not just pitcher math. And I think that's, again, part of the evolution of the show, is that now people have all these words and investor speak in their vernacular because of the
Yeah.
show. And so in some cases, an entrepreneur is like, but why? Why can't you invest in me? And then it's so interesting, and I think worth learning, to know the difference between you needing investment and why and how the investor will ever get their money back. So I think
Right.
that's sort of an interesting conversation. We've have had it before, but it doesn't always make it to air. It's not always crucial to the story that we're trying to show. So yeah, I think that's sort of another indicator of just how the conversation's been able to evolve. And I mean, if we had more minutes in the show, we could get so much deeper into topics that come up as well.
Is there a constraint on like how many episodes you can do and how many pitches you can do?
Well, that's all related to sort of the network. Like,
Okay.
we had 16 episodes for season 20, which was awesome. We were able to make those 2 full circle specials because we had enough episodes. Some years we have 2. Back in the day, we had 22. And so
Wow.
I think it's like a mix between how many can we get? Like, do we have enough great pitches to fill all those episodes? Do we have too many? Could we do more episodes? I always say 100% we could do more episodes. Like, if you'd notice, there's some really great businesses that turn into web pitches. And we just hope that by being a web pitch, they're still getting great traction and
Yeah.
exposure. There just wasn't enough room in the show. And from a viewer point of view, people don't always realize. They're like, oh, I would have loved to see this non-alcoholic drink be on the show.
Yeah.
But you're not looking at the same like spreadsheet of us of how many other non-alcoholic drinks have we had on this year? How many times has the same conversation had? Like, we have to be, we're very mindful of what we put together to make sure we're reaching different subjects, a diversity of topics, a diversity of pitchers, making sure we have people from different provinces and this and that. So if I had too many cookies from Ontario, I'm only going to put one on air, but we might have filmed 3 because you don't know what's going to happen, right? So not every pitch that films makes it to air. That's like a really heartbreaking part of the job, is that, for season 20, we had 16 episodes. On average, there's 5 pitches per episode. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's only 4. You do the pitcher math, and if we have 12 episodes, 5 episodes per show, that's 60 pitches. We're probably going to film 80 or 90 pitches in the
Right.
hopes they all make great things happen. So it's sort of the math game there. But when we film usually 80 to 100
Wow.
different businesses in those 10 days.
Wow, that's impressive. And then once you record everything in May, what does like behind the scenes production look like to get the episodes up and running?
Oh, it takes forever. It's thanks to the magic editors that we have on the show. There's 12 cameras on set. That's
Wow.
12 times. Like, if you're in there for an hour pitching your business, that's 12 hours of media per pitch. So think about the cloud service on that one. It's a lot of work to take a pitch from 45 minutes on average is how long they're in there and make it into 8 minutes of dynamic storytelling. So there's so much, the actual post-production time outweighs the pre-production time, 3 to 1. But so after May, we film the show, and then for the rest of the summer and fall, we're putting the show together.
Wow. Do you have any tips for someone that's thinking about auditioning or even applying online? Like, how can they get themselves prepared?
I mean, I think the best way, and again, like I hate to harken back to the old days, but back in the day, there wasn't much to compare it to. People would just
Yeah.
show up. They didn't know how to pitch that same way of like, hi, my name's Molly Middleton. I'm from Abbotsford, BC.
Yeah.
My company is. Now people know that. There's almost no excuse. Like, come on, at the very least, watch an episode. And when you
Right.
watch anything, like it's just like studying for a job interview. Like watch the show. You'll find out all the questions they're going to ask you. There's
So
very
true.
rarely a question that can be asked to you in an audition or on the show that hasn't been asked before. So watching is learning, right? So I think if someone's thinking of applying, I say just do it,
Yeah.
because how you audition is not like we don't record it and say this is how you must pitch when you come. There's a lot of work in between to take your pitch from the audition to the recording. But watching the show is the best preparation, and like pitching your friends all the time. I was super happy. We had our auditions in Toronto last weekend,
Yeah.
and someone put out a social post about how she was practicing her pitch at Union Station, like at the subway
Oh,
station,
wow.
pitching strangers. I think pitch practice makes perfect. That is always going to be the thing, and not just to your friends and family who think you're the best thing on earth. Strangers, people, they call it an elevator pitch for the reason, right? Like
So true.
the idea is you're going to get in an elevator, you never know who you're with, and by the time you make it to the top floor, you should have been able to say what it is, why it's great, and what's the opportunity. And then you hand them your business card, and you've hopefully got an investor, right? The art of the
Right.
elevator pitch. So I think to prepare, watch the show and practice your pitch.
How long do people have to like audition in person?
I mean, it depends. We also do virtual auditions. Like if you're further than 3 hours from an audition location in person, we book a call over Zoom. On average, I get mad if someone takes longer than 30 minutes to talk to someone, because
Yeah.
the idea is we just need to get a sense of it, write lots of notes, and then we can always follow up with more for the sake of time. So, on
Right.
average, it's about half an hour, which is kind of mirrors how long you might be in the den.
Typically, do you feel like you get enough information in that initial audition?
You should, yes.
Okay.
Got to know the right answers, but like you can really, just like on the show, you can really get off on tangents, and it's hard, like producers, anyway, we're curious. There's some businesses are super intriguing, some are super straightforward. And just
Yeah.
because you're a straightforward business doesn't mean, like, if your audition only takes 15 minutes, that's not a bad thing. You might
Yeah.
just be really efficient with the important information. So, it's everything's different.
That totally makes sense. And with like the full circle dragons, did they have to go through auditions as well? Like, how did you decide
You
which
bet.
ones
I
to
mean,
choose?
like for some context, the full circle episodes have been like percolating for a long time. The best case scenario is finding out that businesses who have come on the show have gone on to do great. That's like the most satisfying part for I think any of us who work on the show, to hear back from a pitcher to tell you how great things are going and to watch the rise and climb of so many stories. And I think season 20 was just the perfect occasion to finally celebrate that. Listen, it's been years of former pitchers poking me to be like, I'm a dragon now, like I'm ready, put me in, coach.
Yeah.
And so when we finally got the green light for these specials, we did do auditions. There are more than the 5 that you're going to see on February 26th and March 5th. There are more great success stories. There are more great brands, and it's a really tough call. Every one of them could have stepped in, and if I
Yeah.
could do 10 of these shows, I could have a different panel every time. Well, not quite. I'd
Yeah.
say there's a good 20 entrepreneurs who've come through the program who have gone on to do tremendous and who are in the position themselves. They're either already investing or they want to be. And I think, so they did audition, and which was really fun. We put together
Yeah.
a few panels of past successes, and looked for the magic to happen, and like there are some great people waiting in the wings who we weren't able to choose this time, but I would say like it's a great sort of concept that we could do again. We could switch up the panel, we could keep them the same, but that's
Yeah.
the best part is that we've finally gotten to that point. It's taken 20 years, but that pitchers from season 5, from season 10,
Yeah.
from season 18 have gone on to do so well that they're ready to give back and become investors.
That's like it's so inspiring. Could there possibly be like a spin-off Dragon's Den with the
I mean, I could go on for hours about all the
Yeah.
various spin-offs there could be. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've said we can do more, and I think like the dragons who got to be full circle dragons they would love to do more. They loved it so much, and I hope people watch because it's a great sort of full circle moment, truly.
Yeah. Is there anything that surprises you about like the pitches that you see? Like any aha moments or like why hasn't anyone thought about this or like something different you see every season?
I mean, I would say every time I'm surprised that there's enough to make a show. Here, I think this is it. We've tapped the country. There's no way there will be enough people who audition to make that many more great episodes. And every year I'm floored. I do think the show has continued to evolve in a good way to reflect, like, our goal is to reflect what's happening in Canada across small business, entrepreneurship, and innovation. And I think that every year I'm shocked and amazed and in awe that more ideas, more great ideas come, or more businesses that we haven't seen who've been percolating for a few
Yeah.
years and they're here. Also, I'm surprised sometimes, the Nova Scotia Soap Company, who's on a Full Circle episode, is a prime example. She's auditioned many, many times. And even this year, I've seen a couple come back already who are like, thank goodness you didn't pick me last year because now
Yeah.
I've done XYZ. And I said, see, it's a rhyme and a reason. Like, people often come back who didn't get picked, and those are the tenacious ones who often prove us wrong, and then they hit their spot where they're ready to come on, and it's
Yeah.
super great. So I'm always surprised that there's enough, and
Yeah.
but I've been humbled to learn like the show I think really could go on forever because there will also always be new dragons to put in with great success stories and people who are ready to help and be an example. And then I think there's great entrepreneurs. So it could literally go on for 20 more years easily, I think.
That totally makes sense. And like for each year, are you like trying to pick new dragons? Like I know you have Drew as a celebrity, so is that going to change every year?
You'll have to stay tuned. It doesn't change every year. I think sometimes, change is always good. I think change keeps us on our toes. It
Yeah.
resets the game, changing up personalities, refreshing the panel, finding that chemistry, is great. It's always challenging if you have a lot of new people.
Mhm.
It's just like
Yeah.
running an office and having a whole new staff is more challenging, but it also is great. You bring new ideas to the table, fresh perspectives, different things. So it kind of depends on, like, oftentimes it's dragon availability. Are they available?
Right.
Sometimes they're too busy running their empires, so it all depends.
That totally makes sense. And what is like the next like 3 to 5 years look like for you or even Dragon's Den, if you're allowed to tell us?
Yeah. I mean, every year we don't know if we're getting renewed. We don't know. We could get
Yeah.
canceled. I thought, part of me in the back of my mind was like, this is it. 20 years. They're going to put a bow on us and put it to
Oh,
bed. There's 20 years in the library. They could repeat it forever.
yeah.
So, I think there's no crystal ball, but I think it could go on forever. And I think the challenge is keeping it fresh, keeping
Yeah.
relevant, and making sure we continue to reflect Canada. Like, and I think I do, again, I don't know if it's us, like we did these events for season 20. I did feel like a renewed energy. And I don't know if that's because of the socio-political times that people are a little bit more the whole elbows up and Canada strong and support Canada. I
Yeah.
think there is sometimes there's ebbs and flows of trends and stuff. And I think that we got back in the forefront of people's minds, and there's always new audiences to gather. Like some people tell me, oh my God, I watched Dragon's Den when I was a kid. And then
Yeah.
other people say, I just discovered Dragon's Den last year. So, it's and trying to find ways to engage audiences, find younger viewers. That's always going to be the challenge. It is the CBC, so we
Yeah.
have to, we are a little bit of everything to everyone, which a dragon would say, don't be everything to everyone.
Right.
But that's the beauty and the curse of the format. Like, we are a Sony owned show. We are the same as Shark Tank and it's done in, I think, 43 different regions now between
Wow.
Dragon's Den and Shark Tank. Don't quote me
Yeah.
on that, but it's done all over the world, and we're one of the most ancient. Like, it was the BBC, and then it was us, and then it was Shark Tank US. And so, it's blessing and a curse to be the oldest kid in school, right? So
Right.
we'll see.
That's so exciting. And do you have any like tips for like people wanting to come out and audition? I know there's like a lot of wait times and there's so much like unknown. Just show up
Yeah, I
anyway.
mean, it's fun. You get
Yeah.
to meet people at the auditions, and it's all part of your entrepreneurial process. Like, some people, I think, are genuinely devastated if they don't make the show. And sometimes I have to remind people it's like a relationship. It's not you, it's
Yeah.
me. So it is a TV show. So we may have just recently told, and of course you're going to say, well, mine's different, but we
Yeah.
might have just told a story about finding a more eco-friendly glow stick. So we might not tell that story again, and we got to make room for new things and a diversity of pitches. So, coming out, the advice or tips I would say is, like, just go with it. And the biggest thing is, be ready to fight for yourself. Why are you, like, when I'm auditioning, I say, okay, so pretend I'm a mean dragon, but it's sort of like, we are here to play devil's advocate, to
Yeah.
poke you, to bring out the best in you and make sure that you can defend it. Like, if I say, oh, well, what about this t-shirt brand? And you're like, oh yeah, they're pretty good. No, no, no. Why is yours better? Why are
Right.
you better? Why is your granola the best, most healthiest, and the potential, is you have to be ready to fight for yourself and sell it to us. If you can't sell it to us, how are you going to sell it to the rest of Canada?
That is so true. And even this year, you guys had like a sports team on the show as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Rugby Canada, that was a little bit controversial because it wasn't a regular business cash equity exchange.
Right.
But that's where we, take a step back and think about the storytelling of it all and making sure that we showcase things that need to be showcased. That's a story that needed to be told. Do we wish the Dragons had sponsored? It wasn't an investment, it was sponsorship. Do we
Right.
wish they Yes, but they held strong to their convictions. It wasn't an appealing sponsorship for them. If they'd been a pro sports team offering ownership, that might have been different. So I think there's, like, that one was a great example of so much to be learned from it. You're learning about the problems of sport, problems of
Right.
sport funding, problems of female sport, but you're also learning the business side of, like, it doesn't always work to just come in and ask for money for sponsorship. And most of the Dragons gave great reasons. For example, 1-800 got drunk. 1-800 got junk doesn't need the brand visibility on a stadium in the UK because they don't
Right.
have UK business. Like, it's like everything they said was fair,
Yeah.
but all the reasons that Rugby Canada was there was also fair. So it's sort of, that one was like, you take a flyer and
Yeah.
see what the conversation's going to be.
Do you encourage like more sports teams and not
It's
typical kind of
tricky.
businesses to come on?
I think I would say no, because if another sports team comes to tell the same story and to show the
Oh,
same
so true.
problem, I'd say, well, we just did this last year and there's only so many spots, right?
Yeah.
But whereas if you saw that and you have a televised sports league opportunity that is a more traditional investable ROI situation, then maybe, and we've had that before. We've had wrestling teams, we've had different things. And sometimes, because I've been around for so long, I'm like, but we
Yeah.
had that. And it's like, well, that was 15 years ago. That person wasn't even born yet. So there's always a time and a place for things. So I wouldn't really encourage more sports teams per se,
Yeah.
but unique business propositions, doors always open.
Yeah, that's definitely so important. And then for service-based businesses, do you have any tips of like how to showcase things? Like I'm just thinking like Taste the City app. They had like a great
Yes.
display of
So
everything.
Taste the City is an example. Great business. How do we make this more than just a bunch of screen grabs of an app, you know? So
Yeah.
we want to bring the experience to the den. We've done that before with sort of physical things like bikes or tour guides or there's one, the guest wear trips, great business
Oh,
where there's
right. Yeah.
secret sort of like almost like a not choose your own adventure, but the reveal of the next location comes. And we did that too. We sort of tried to mock that up. And that's where it's hard to do that in an audition, but
Yeah.
being open minded and coming with your own ideas. We're not going to do your pitch for you, but we'll work with you to figure out. Like a couple of years ago, one of the biggest spectacles we had, the producer really had to work hard on this one, was a kind of skis performance skis, and so we made a ski jump in the den. That was like the
Wow.
craziest thing we've probably ever done. Or we brought a cow in. You'll see that on March 5th for a dairy farmer business application, and it's like, well, bring a cow. Like, let's, if we're going to talk about dairy farming, bring a dairy cow. So it's like upping the production values, and you don't want to dumb something down or make a farce of it, but you need to, how is my 8-year-old nephew and my 88-year-old grandmother, how are they going to understand? And that's part of it, is relatability, right? Like, make me care at home, make me be like, yes, I want that, I'm going to go online and find it and buy it.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? Because a lot of people would be happy to hide behind a Google slideshow.
So true.
That's sure easier than it is to bring in a cow and have a dragon milk it on stage, so
That's so true.
yeah.
When someone is selected to be on the den and pitch in front of the dragons, do you guys provide like support behind the scenes to get them stage ready?
Yeah, 100%. So if you're selected for the show, you get assigned a producer. Sometimes it's 3 phone calls and you're done because
Yeah.
you're ready, you know what you're going to do. And again, you've watched the show enough to be like, oh, well, I saw this cleaning company from Ucluelet. I saw them do a game show demo. Can I do that? And we're like, well,
Yeah.
no, because we already did that. But think like, it's good to come with ideas, and the producer will help hone those ideas. And listen, it doesn't all have to be a dog and pony show. Sometimes you just need to do an app demo. Sometimes it just needs to be Cindy on the stage pitching her business. And sometimes it's a flow chart. Like,
Yeah.
everything is so different, but they do work one-on-one with a producer to get ready. So for the most part, people bring their own things. If you're a Christmas tree business, bring your own Christmas tree. But if you're coming from Abbotsford and you're not driving a truck across the country, how can we help you coordinate things? You need puppies, you need babies, we got them, that kind of thing.
That's so true. And then for being like pitch ready, do you recommend people hire like a pitch coach? I know you mentioned like watching like previous seasons, episodes to prep and just presenting in front of people, but what are your thoughts on like hiring like a pitch coach?
I have seen too many times when sometimes professional help becomes an intervention, in that you've got different people telling you what to do. It's your business. If you think you need an accountant to go through your numbers, then you probably need an accountant to go through your numbers.
Right.
A pitch coach, I would be wary, because what are they a pitch coach for? Are they a pitch coach for Dragon's Den? If they are, you should just be working on the show. But everyone thinks they're a coach, and I would be, it's just like people getting help with their patents. I'm just wary of it, and I think what you need. Like, to know what you don't know is a great skill. So if you think you need help, that's great. I just don't want people to spend too much money on things. You never know what's going to happen, and ultimately
Right.
it's you standing up there. It's you doing the talking. You can't call your pitch
So
coach when
true.
you're on stage, right? So I think it's a little bit of both. Sometimes I would say, because I'm not going to fix your numbers for you, we will say, I think your valuation's out of whack, but I can't
Yeah.
help you with your valuation. I'm not a business consultant. So
Yeah.
sometimes people, I think if you need help, right? If you're like, man, my
Right.
books are a mess, go get your books in order before you come to the den. I'm not going to look at your books, right?
Yeah.
So, and due diligence also does that. After the den, it's a handshake deal in the den. And after that is months, if not years, of due diligence between dragons and entrepreneurs. And the truth will come out no matter what. So, may as well get your truth together before you come in.
That's so true. Yeah, and I often hear about deals not going through after.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like not that far off from real world. Like I know people in the outside world who are pitching investors all the time and what
Yeah.
happens and doesn't happen. Like the pressure of having to come to a conclusion within half an hour to 45 minutes is the least real part of everything. And then the rest does go on behind the scenes. I think sometimes people on TV will give up 35% of their company and then after they're like, what did I do? Or they realize they can't
Yeah.
dilute their shareholders. Or when the numbers come out, people aren't worth as much as they say they are, or they're not
Yeah.
ready for investment. A great example is this year was our biggest deal closing ever with Hoo Ha out of Vancouver. Arlene and BDC invested $20 million. That is not the deal that happened 2 years ago on the show. But from what I know, when after the cameras closed and they started due diligence, they realized that Hoo Ha wasn't ready for investment yet. And like what exactly that means, I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
they identified the holes, maybe it was in the business portion of things, and kept in touch, and 2 years later that's what the deal turned into. So I'd
That's
love to know
amazing.
more of what actually goes into all of that. But
Yeah.
it's both deals fall apart on the entrepreneur side, maybe on the dragon side, or in the deal making together. But a lot of deals do close and we don't even talk about those either. Like some of them are small, some of them are big. And on the show, we wait for something to happen usually to
Right.
do an update, because getting the money is just like 1/16th of what a deal becomes. What does that mean? And we like to say, the dragons are like, I'm closing a deal, can you put it on the
Yeah.
show? And I'm like, well, let's wait till something happens. Did it turn
Right.
into international distribution? Did you offer more product lines? What has changed and what's grown? And those are the stories we look to tell.
Do you guys get to see that side of the due diligence process, or it's like done
I mean,
after?
maybe you'd like that. I don't want to
Yeah, I
watch paperwork. But
would.
like, no, we're not. So that's like the thing is like the CBC is the TV part of it all, and the
Yeah.
dragons and the entrepreneurs are the business. So we stay out of it. We just like to hear what happens after.
That totally makes sense. I'm just looking at it from a numbers perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Certain people are like, "Ooh, can you do a whole show on due diligence?" I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, sorry, I fell asleep when you said due diligence."
When the dragons are like talking, and are they like scripted at all, or is it more just natural?
No,
What's
I mean, the number one question I get is, so what kind of brief did the dragons get before they came in? It's
Yeah.
like, no, no, no. That's the beauty and that's the format of it. That's when whoever created the show in Japan a million years ago, they made it. The dragons know nothing about the business until the moment they walk in. But I will
Oh
admit our
wow.
floor director, Dave, does give names because Jim Treliving was famous for calling people the wrong name. So it'd be like,
Oh.
next up, Cindy and Molly, and they write down Cindy, Molly, so there's
Yeah.
nothing scripted about it. Their reactions are their reactions, their conflict is the conflict, and the pictures too. I mean, some people go out there and freeze and you feel bad, or they got to
Yeah.
start again. And, there's nothing scripted about it. I hope people know that the season's not over. There's two special episodes. We're just waiting for those silly little Olympics to finish. Not silly. There's two more episodes, the special episodes that I'm really proud of that our team worked super hard on to make. It's sort of a dream come true for a lot of us behind the scenes to finally get to show off that we've hit that mark, that we finally have, that pictures have come back to be so successful. And I hope that motivates people to realize, a lot of people I think I could be a dragon. I'm going to be a dragon one day. Look what happened. So
Yeah.
and like if you're thinking of auditioning, get on it because it only happens for so long. Don't be afraid. It's not the be all and end all. It is a TV show. So if you don't make it this year, you might come back or you might be like, man, that's not for me. And if
Yeah.
you're a person who loves to pitch and loves that experience of finding the holes or the questions that people ask you, it's a great opportunity to come down on audition. So cbc.ca/Dragons Den.
Are you guys going to be hosting like more events?
Not yet. They're expensive. So we're hopefully, we've done a Dragon's Den market in Toronto before to kick off auditions, and we didn't do one this year because we'd just done Dragon's Den Day in October. But we love, getting out into community and engaging with people, fans, entrepreneurs is the best. But it costs money, and technically
Yeah.
we're here to put on a TV show. So sometimes they say, get back to work, get back to work. But we'd love to do more. Oh, actually, we are doing. For example, we're going to Yellowknife and doing a library event. There's this library collaboration we've done in the past. We did Winnipeg, Halifax, Abbotsford, Kelowna, Fredericton, St. John's, Newfoundland, and it gives us an opportunity to get into communities that we aren't normally in. Last year we did Whitehorse, and so
Oh,
this year
wow.
we're doing Yellowknife. We're doing London, Ontario, and trying and working on one for Saskatchewan. So we do, those are sort of community events where we go to the local library. We call it Lessons from the Den, and we have examples from the local business space who've been on the show and who've done well, and the libraries can talk about the free resources available to them through the libraries. So it's kind of a unique, different way to engage.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, there's just so many things.
Yeah. Just one last thing. If someone wants to learn more about auditions or like the scheduling of when episodes are coming out,
Mhm.
is that CBC website, Instagram, what way to?
Yeah, I mean, most of the information, like all of our audition stuff, is found on the Dragon's Den website, cbc.ca/Dragon's Den. Our socials are our social media is the best way to keep up if things are changing and how to apply and when to watch the show. Like if you're on our Instagram or TikTok, we've been rolling out content for the Full Circle specials. And, 14 episodes have aired. They're all sitting there on CBC Gem, which is free for everyone. And then 2 more episodes to round out the season.
Thank you so much, Molly.
Thank you.
If you're a founder who wants real strategy, not noise, and you want someone in your corner helping you build a business that feels aligned, is profitable, and actually supports your life, you can apply for CFO on Call. This is my one-on-one financial partnership for established founders, typically making between $500K to $2 million, who want clarity, who want structure and confidence with their numbers. The link is in the show notes so you can schedule a profit strategy call, or you can DM me CFO on Instagram at It's Cindy Kumar, and I'll send over all the details.